His research interests includes education governance, educational management and leadership, pedagogy and cultural studies. I'm quite sure he has published widely in that title, the field of education and social science, and have a lot of present in several international and local conference. So that is for the short bio of Dr. T. Zulfikar. We are looking forward to hearing a lot from you, Pak, today. So I leave it to you. Go for it, Pak Zulfikar. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bu Watin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To all the speakers and all the attendees or participants, thank you very much for being here. And I would like to spend like 30 to 45 minutes to give some information or to share discussions on the self-study research. Okay, I think I would like to share the screen first, so it's better for me to just elaborate what I would like to discuss about. Okay, all right. Yeah, you see the self-study research principle and practices. I think if you see if you listen to the titles of the terms or of the terms of the research, the self-study. So people might ask questions: can we study ourselves? Can we do the research on ourselves? Is it objective or not? Is it, what about the validation? What about the reliability of the research itself? Because we do the exploration on our own practices. Before I'm doing myself doing this kind of research, I mean, and write an articles and some articles on self-study, I myself feels not really comfortable with the term self-study. But then I go deep down, I explore a bit more, and I do some research about self-study, and here I come to a conclusion that self-study research is also an academic work where we can maintain the objectivity and trustworthiness of the results. Okay, let me give you an introduction of what is the self-study. Okay, let me. Okay, self-study. I think like synonymous, but not quite synonymous with this one, narrative. People heard about narrative, a look at a story of self, so where we talk and we narrate ourselves, and then also autoethnography, a look at self within the wider context. And this one is self-study, a look at self in action, usually within the educational context. So there are terms like we call synonymous between self-study and this methodology, narrative, autoethnography, and also with self-study. So if you can see, all of those methodologies are researching and exploring about our own practices. And again, the definitions here, I give like three or five definitions from various authors. If you see from Fletcher's and Lebowski, Fletcher 2014, and then Lebowski 2004, self-study focused on practices, and as such, it analyzed practice with the goals of its improvement. So whose practice is it? It's a practice of teacher education, a practice of teacher, practice of lecturer, or even like practice of the students where they study. And also by Hamilton's and Penega, if you can see, the self-study research is a study of oneself, one actions, one ideas. It is autobiographical, historical, cultural, and political. It draws on one's life. So if you see these definitions, we can really understand that self-study is something that we study about ourselves. So there is no way to mention or to tell that we don't have any ideas to do the research. You can look at yourself. You can explore yourself. You can explore your experience and your practices to improve your performance. And Lebowski said that self-study is rigorous and systematic research methodology. It is aimed at improving and understanding practices. And Lawrence, this is a former dean of Monash University, John Lawrence. So maybe Bukwatin is recognize these persons as professors at Monash University. And he mentioned that self-study is uncovering deeper understandings of the relationship between teachings, about teaching and learning about teachings. And also self-study research, talking about an approach that help teachers, educators do more carefully consider to improve their own practices. And element of self-study. So when you do self-study, you need to remember these five things. First, it is self-initiated and self-focused. What do I mean by self-initiated and self-focused? So you do the self-study when you feel something in your heart, in your feeling, you feel something in the way you teach, you feel you see it's not right or not going on in your practices. So you try to initiate a research and you focus on yourself. And then why you do this kind of research is because to improve your own practices. Say, for example, I'm a language teacher at AR-RANIRY, and I feel I need to see something and to explore something, my own experience teaching English. So that's why I write something, I do the research and explore something on my own practices for the sake of improving my practice. And also to do the research and to explore, to get the data, we need to do the reflections. And that's another kind of another element of the self-study. And the data of self-study come from multiple sources. It could be from our own experience. It could be from the experience of others who do the same practices like us. And it could be from the literatures that talk about the teaching and of the classroom practices. And then the most important things to gain the trustworthiness of the self-study is triangulations of the data, triangulations of data collection, triangulation of data analysis. So that is very important in doing the self-study. And let me move on. Why do we need to do self-study then? Because self-study of teacher education practice, or we call it as STEP, because it enable teachers, educators to focus on their teachings and student learning while also engaging in research practices. Self-study of teacher education, or as STEPs, has become a powerful approach to improving the practices of teacher educators that mentioned by Logan in 2014. So some of us, say for example, lecturers or senior lecturers, sometimes we don't feel comfortable asking someone to do research about ourselves. Say for example, have been teaching English for like more than 20 years, for example, and then I ask someone to observe myself and then do the research about me. I think something that not all people want to do that. So with self-study, you can do yourself, you can explore your own practices, you can look down into yourself, and I give one title for my article before, researching my own backyard. So this is another article that I wrote on self-study. So this self-study, so you can look at your own practices without feeling, what we call it, without feelings ashamed of other people's understanding of what you have done. And then self-study is the methodology for studying professional practice settings, mentioned by Pendergast, 1988, that has the following characteristic. It is self-initiated and focused. It is improvement aim. We aim to improve our own practices. It is interactive, what we call interactive. I can ask questions to others about my own practices. So my way, I mean, like I ask them in private conversation with my students or with my other colleague. And that's really what we call really allow me to get in-depth information about my own practices. And then it includes multiple data, mainly qualitative. We use to make methods, and it define validity as validation process based on trustworthiness. So later on, I would like to expand a bit what is trustworthiness is and how to get the trustworthiness of the self-study research. And then philosophical foundations. What make this self-study an academic inquiry? I mean, like people, especially in the quantitative domain, they will say, how come you study yourself? How come you can be objective about yourself? It's almost impossible because you always want to talk something good about yourself. So when you hide something from the audience, it means that it's not an academic anymore. But here, let me tell you about what makes this self-study, this kind of methodology is the self-study, is an academic inquiry. Let's see here. Preconditions in 1995 suggested state that change cannot be affected from outside. It should be from inside. This means that if you want to improve your own practices, you have to start from your own to your initiation. You need to initiate to do things to improve your own practices. And also, the second philosophical foundation is that learning is processed through previous experience. So personal history and cultural context must be considered. So say, for example, if I teach now, the way I teach now is the result as the way I was taught earlier. So my experience really determines how I conduct my own teaching at the moment. So for that reason, when you look down into yourself, you do the research on your own practices. If you recall your own experience, you recall on your history, so you can develop the future and you can develop your good practices. And the third one is learning is enhanced by challenging previously assumption through practical experience. So I remember that one time John Dewey wrote a book with the title Education and Experience. It's written long, long way ago, 1970 something. And it talks about we learn when we experience some things. So we learn how to improve our practices is through experiencing and through learning from our experience. So these three uh, these three assumptions contributes, allow to say that self-study is also an academic inquiry. And how to collect the data? Because you remember this self-study research is talking about yourself. So you need to do the research, you need to collect the data through reflection. You can ask someone to write their reflective journal, or you can write your own reflective journals. Like before, long time ago, we are accustomed to using to writing in diary. So diary that can also become part of the data collections in the self-study. And the autobiography, you write your own biography, you recall to your own experience, and then also personal experience that also part of the data collections. And then teaching journals. What do I mean by teaching journals? That you reflect on your teaching practices through journaling. Say, for example, you after you teach, you write about what you have taught, about your practices. So by writing what you have taught, what you have uh, practiced, then that will allow you to improve your future practices and also narrative. So if you see five ways of collecting the data in self-study is also very widely recognized in the academia. So reflections, autobiography, personal experience, writing, teaching journals, and narrative is also five very important ways to collect the data in the self-study research. And then trustworthiness, this rigor. So you need to do the in-depth and then in-depth analysis, and also elaborations. You need to elaborate more on what you experience, elaborate your experience and connect it to the theory. And then transparency in reporting. This is very important. We need to report exactly what you experience, so then you can communicate with other what you experience and what you think good and what you think is not good going on there, so you can improve your own future performance. And then making it accessible for others. The data, the way we analyze the data, the way we get the data, we need to really report to the people. You need to remember that becoming researchers, that means becoming an honest person. You need to be honest to do a good research. Unless you can hide things, unless you can conceal the finding. And when you conceal the finding, that means it's not an academic work anymore. So you need to be transparent to others, and you need to tell others what you do and why you come into that conclusions. And also engaging in dialogues. You need to make a dialogue with yourself and with the reference, and also you need to talk to the experts about what your practices are. and then collaboration and critiques, and exemplars-based validations. So you need to, what do I mean by exemplar-based validations? You need to find out uh, the training and the strategies that the theories or the experts have given on how to give a very good validations on a particular work. In in qualitative work, in qualitative research, people knows about credibility or subject validations or respondent validations or member checks or prolong your work in the field. So that's one way to engage in trustworthiness, to what we call it, to gain trustworthiness in your study. And I got all those from Dunworth and Al-Saidi 2019 and Albowski 2004 and Harthoff in 2017. Okay. Here, let me give you some examples of self-study research that have been published by peoples, by some scholars in other places. You see, this is from self-study research, development of teacher educator professional identities, published in European Educational Research Journals. And these all, if you see how how the author collect the data using the digital book, using the what we call it, the exit interviews and follow-up questioning and blah and so forth. So you can also download the article from the journals, and you can learn a bit more on can learn further on the self-study research. And also, even like people write or write journals on this, and or design a journal. We call studying teacher education. So most of the articles in the published in these journals are written in the area of self-study. And you see, this is an example by Bob Costera and Bas van den Berg about increasing professional self-understanding, self-study research, blah and blah. And then here's the abstracts. And also you can find out so many articles here on the self-study research. And this is my own work. From an active learner to an effective practitioner, learning to become professional Indonesian English instructors. I wrote this and I published this article in TQR, the qualitative report, and it's written in the self-study report. And another two speakers later on would like to also describe or explain a bit more on, would like to review on my work on these articles, and they will explain more about what I have written in my work. An example of self-study research is my own, so you can download it later on if you want to read more, and then you can share with others, and also you can wait for those two other speakers who are reviewing my articles. And I think this is some source from the book. It's a books also written about have been written about self-study research, research method for the self-study of practices, self-study of practice of as a genre of qualitative research, ethic in self-study research methodology and teacher educations, being in self-study, blah, 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 and then also this one. So you see, so many work have been conducted on self-study research, and it is quite academic. So for those like students or teachers who lost, if you don't find your mind to define or to identify a research problem, you can look down into yourself. You can explore what you have been through, and then you can do research on that and write, also publish on your own experience. So thanks. Questions and comments I return to the moderators. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's really inspiring, Pak Tezulfikar, when I heard that you have published your own kind of short biography of yourself, when you mentioned about active learners to a reflective practitioners. It's really inspiring. We do hope that we as a practitioner can also do a self-study, and then don't forget to write and publish it, of course, not become a diary only. Okay, now without further delay, I will invite our second speaker, Ibu Anis Sundusia. Please, Bu Anis, I will read a short bio of Ibu Anis Sundusya. How are you, Ibu Anis?
Assalamualaikum, Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam. I'm really great. Thank you.
Um,
Yeah,
Thank you for considering the backdrop. The backdrop
that's
is
fine.
because it's evening time, so you got all the warm tone.
That's fine. That's great. Okay, I will read your short bio. Ibu Anis Sundusya, MA, PhD. She is a lecturer at Wali Songo University, Semarang, Indonesia, and currently on study leave to conduct an academic fellow program at Institute for International Studies in Education, University of Pittsburgh, United States of America. And she's currently working in the field of language policy and issues in education. She completed PhD in school leadership, language policy, School of Education from University of Pittsburgh. He earned 2 master degree, the same like Pak T. Zulfikar just now. MA in language pedagogy and TESOL, School of Art and Science, Ohio University, United States of America. And another one, MED in Applied Linguistics, School of Education from State University of Semarang, Indonesia. And she got BA in English Language and Literature, School of Humanity, Diponegoro, University, Indonesia. Her research interests, as I told you, in the field of language issues and education, language planning for sociopolitical identities, sociocultural aspect of language. So without further delay, please, Bu Anis Sundusya, it's time for you. I leave it for you now. Yeah.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
First of all, thank you for having me, for Uwin AR-RANIRY and for Pak Zulfikar who invited me. And thank you also for the audience who are understanding that I'm having small baby here, my little boy, and it's a sleeping time. So
Yes.
that's why he's cranky all around, but to get used to it. For sure.
That's fine. It's
Thank
okay.
you, Bu Ati. So when the first time Pak Zulfikar contacted me is that we're going to have this webinar to review his article and to discuss his article. So that's why I didn't prepare the slides and all those lit reviews that Pak Zulfikar had showed to us. But I think those are very important works. And I'm glad that he also mentioned this strictly from the methodology side, from the method side, because that is actually the key of the self-study itself. So, Artin, is it possible to interact with the audience, with the attendees, or they have to chat? What is it?
They have to chat, Bu Anis.
They have to chat. Okay. So if I ask something to the audience, there's no way for them to get back to me right away.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So then I will talk with Pak Zulfikar then.
Okay. Right, no problem, yeah.
All right, thank you. So the other thing is the audience also is the audience also read the article by Pak Zulfikar?
Not all of them.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So
only several, I think.
only several. Yep. So let me go. Nah.
Hello, the baby. Yeah. It's okay,
ya.
Anis. It's okay, Anis.
He's being because this is past his sleeping time. So the article on self-study, the title is from active learner to being EFL professional instructor.
Active learner.
Yes. So again, as Pak Dul mentioned, this is an ethnography, and this is the type of research, and you provide all the methodology, what is it? Methodology, supporting reviews and everything. The article talks about more or less Pak Zul's learning English learning journey from, is it high school or is it from primary school?
From secondary school, from Sanawiyah.
SMP. And then he went to the university doing his master and then PhD, and all of them are about being active learners as well as being a professional who keeps learning, who keeps being active, right? So if the audience or if everyone sees what he is right now, what he looks like right now, what he does right now, you can see actually that he's been an active learner. An active learner implies I'm so sorry.
Okay.
An active learner is not, I mean, the success is not a shortcut. There's some messiness in the behind that. There's ups and downs. There's a struggle. There's a questions. There's mistakes. There's errors. Right. So if I can share the screen, I'm gonna show you something. Can I disable
Yes,
participants?
you
Can
can
I
share.
share the screen?
You can share the screens. Yeah.
But it says I cannot.
Share
The
screens.
most disabled me as a participant to share the screen.
In the bottom, share screens. I think you can.
I can or I cannot?
You can. You can.
Baik.
You can.
Kabar, Bu?
Anis.
It says I cannot.
Mhm.
Iya, masih corona ini. Apa-apa lah.
Right. So I really want to show several pictures that sums up the story of being active learner, being reflexive, and how that can be, turned into an autoethnography or self-study itself. Is there a way to share? Okay, we'll continue then. Bismillah. So what I'm going to show you is actually a pictures where what you see from other people is the neat part. It's a success part sometimes. But behind that, there's a messiness that not many people can see. And that's the part that you can actually share, make sense of it, and then turn it into a research paper, into a self-study paper, like what Pak Zul has been showing everyone here. That's one. And then the other thing is what we can learn from the article, what we can learn from his experience, what we can learn from the methodology itself. Yes, okay. So one, we can probe, kita bisa meraba-raba, we can probe his experience of being an active English language learners since the time that he was clueless about the grammar, for example, until he found out something, until he learned about the concept, until he learned about competence and everything. Did I lose it? And then that's one example. The other example is when he struggled to assure that students got a motivations and everything. By trial error, he actually found out that teachers and students connections can help increase the motivations, preparing the materials and everything, that also part of the efforts to bump up student motivations. So all of those trial errors, making mistakes, improving the strategies, he mentioned that, and that can be turned into a paper. I'm sorry if Pak Didin is ready to go for his presentations. Can we have him to present first while I'm putting him asleep? Right. Thank you
Okay.
so much,
Okay.
Bu Atin. Pak Didin, I'm
Yeah.
sorry if you're ready.
That's
Can you
fine.
go
It's okay.
first? And
Okay, Bu Anis, we let Pak Didin first.
I'll
Yeah.
continue after you,
We will.
inshallah.
We will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
It's
very much,
okay.
I'm
Bu
just gonna
Anis
make my
Sundusia.
video.
Probably we'll continue it later on.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you very
I'm
much.
here. I'm just muting my video.
Yeah. And that's fine. Uh, uh, everybody can understand the situation since everybody have to do like remote learning and also taking care of the kids and sort of thing. So no problem. Okay, then we will invite the third presenter, Pak Didi Nuruddin Hidayat, MAT Sol PhD. He is currently the head of the Department of English Education from UIN Jakarta. He also served as the coordinator for
Bandung. No, ada dia bilang.
the University of Canberra, Australia. His research yeah. His research interests are mainly on teacher education, English teacher training, and effective teaching. And I'm quite sure he has acquired experience in presenting at many international conferences and also wrote in various international and local journal. So without further ado, Pak Didin Nuruddin, the floor is yours.
Oke, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, first of all, my apology, Pak Zulfikar and Bu Kudwatin Nisa. I have to change the mode from my handphone to my laptop. So if you don't mind to to hold the
That's
floor
fine.
for maybe a few minutes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, once I'm ready for switching this, I'm going to inform you.
Okay. Take your time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, while we are waiting, probably we can take a summary from the interaction with Ibu Anis and Pak Dr. T. Zulfikar before regarding how we can actually inspiring people by writing our own story, and then the people can see how we develop ourselves from. I always say to my friend, like from zero to hero, you know, like Pak T. Zulfikar already explained about that. Reading other people's self-study sometimes bring us an idea on how to solve some problem in our own teaching practice. And probably we also try to see from Pak T. Zulfikar experience what have been through. Like when you mentioned about secondary education, does it influence the way you teach, Pak T. Zulfikar? Sometimes when you go back teaching in secondary education, yeah, does it influence the way you teach your student back when the way the teacher taught you at that point of time?
Yeah, thanks, Bu Atin, for asking that, for bringing that question.
Yeah.
So I believe that the way we teach at the moment
Yeah.
is influenced by the way we were taught when we were at schools or in
Yeah.
university. So I can reflect on the way I was taught before in my secondary schools, and I believe there's something that I can still reapply when I come back teaching there. but there are some other things that maybe I don't think it work works well, or no longer, I think no longer working in the way in our teaching.
Okay.
Say, for example, in the in my experience in the boarding school, the way I was taught the vocabulary was by memorizing the vocabulary out of context. So every day we have to memorize the vocabulary, and I don't think that work for the time being at the moment right now, because we need to functionalize the vocabulary. We need to be able to use the vocabulary into context. So we need to be able to write, memorize the vocabulary, and also put it into the right context while we are writing and also while we are speaking. So I think in that point of things, I may not be able to reapply the way I was taught, because something that through learning we find out that some issues that we need to modify. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Please, Pak Didin, whenever you are ready, just jump in and start the session. And Pak Teh Zulfikar, there is one question from Andi Irlina from UIN Antasari. Could you please give us the simple organization of self-study? Probably you can answer this question.
Okay. Um, if you have time to read my articles, it's really the storytelling, but storytelling with in the academic way. So I start by telling my own experience learning English in the boarding schools, but I don't just explain. I don't just tell the story. I don't just narrate the story to others, but after I do some narrations, I communicate it with the theory. Say, for example, when I say that I learned, I know that I was taught step by step from from the very basics to the advanced elements of English. And then I see the theory, some theories say so that when we teach the language, we need to teach them from basics to the advanced. But other theories come out that you need to really do the integration. So it's no need to teach from a very from small points of the language. So yeah, I think the simple ways of writing the self study is just narrate your own story first. After you narrate your own story, and then you need to take some issues from your story that you can communicate with the theory. So I think that's a very simple way. So if you don't have any ideas, just sit down, relax, and feel what you have gone through in your own learning of English, and then write step by step. You can make like you can make clusters from your first experience, the second experience, and then until what you have experienced at the moment. Yeah, I think I hope that
Okay,
answers
thank you
the
very
questions.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really clear, Pak Teh Zulfikar, the way you narrate your story. And also when I read your article, it's really inspiring me. I really want to narrate my own story later on.
Okay, it's good.
Okay, Pak Didin, as I think you are ready now. Yeah, still busy a bit. Okay, organizing everything so that we can learn a lot from Pak Didin. Okay, we
Okay.
still have plenty of time. And don't forget
Yeah.
to write down the question in Q&A chat box, please. Yeah, the floor is yours, Pak Didin.
Okay. Hang on for a second. Sorry. I wasn't aware that I still use the background. Okay. Well, I don't have the, what is it, the green screen. Okay, now I'm ready. Okay, first of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Pak Dr. Zulfikar, yeah, one of my best colleagues. Yeah, it's been an honor for me to read on your work, yeah, valuable work that kept me on doing the reflection, yeah, especially throughout the weeks, yeah, because I've received this paper a few weeks ago and I've already got a chance to read everything, and it looks really interesting, and it also like triggers me to remind me again as an educator to do a reflection on my own learning and teaching experience. So I believe that if all audience have read this work, yeah, they will be also triggered and motivated to do the reflection. Yeah, later I'm going to explain everything, but I'll try to present it using my PowerPoint slide here. Okay. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been a while since the last time we met in Banda Aceh, yeah.
Yep.
Have a coffee thing together, and then also very nice coffee there. Hopefully, when the pandemic ends, so we can retrieve that wonderful memories also with the other colleagues there. So to start with, yeah, I'm gonna outline my presentation. So basically, I'm as what Dr. Zulfikar asked me to do the critical review on his paper on self-study research regarding the reflective teaching. So that will my presentation. And then the second one, I will move on to the some potentials and challenges of self-study research for the current era, yeah, which has been highlighted as well by Pak Zulfikar earlier this morning. And then also, if time permits, I will add some kind of like a reflections for us as a researcher as well as educator on how to be productive, yeah, during the COVID-19, which to some extent inhibit or maybe lead to a potential drawback on our productivity. But at the same time, if we can take the good side of the COVID-19, actually we can make a tremendous effort, yeah, in making a very good and sustainable and a large scale of application during COVID-19. So if the time permit, yeah, I will also explain the strategies on how to do that. Okay, first, it is very interesting, as I mentioned earlier, to read Dr. Zulfikar's work. So I would recommend, yeah, all of us to read this holistically and then do also a reflection on our own journey as English learners and then also as English teachers. So basically, our professional development is a lifelong journey. So people will not be receiving a very good result if they think that our task as educator, yeah, should be finished within a short time frame. So basically, this is a very lifelong journey and involves a complex and multi-dimensional process. Yeah, it's not only about teaching, but it also requires us to learn throughout our life and then doing the reflection on it. So basically, what we do on the reflection is that it must impact on the learners. Later on, I will elaborate on why reflection is not quite a common practice in Indonesian ELT classroom. One of the reasons is because we focus more on ourselves, but rather we have to focus that what we are doing is not only for the sake of ourselves, but also this will benefit greatly on our learners. So that's the extrinsic motivation that we have to do when we would like to step ahead on doing the reflection. Yeah, so we have to do this not only in training, but also in our habitual action. Yeah, so it's a lifelong process. So it's not only when we do, let's say, the pre-training of being the educators, but also during our in-service, yeah, as professional educators. So in terms of the technicality, I would comment that this paper is beautifully written in a high standard of academic English. It's not because Dr. Zulfikar has treated me with the kepiting and then also coffee the other day in Aceh, but truly, if you have a look at his own writing, yeah, it is written in a beautiful and a high standard of academic English. Rarely that I can find a major, let's say, errors on the way he structures the writing. The ideas went really coherent, cohesive as well. So it has fulfilled all the academic standard of English writing. And then also what I would like to admire is on the way he wrote the arguments and then also back up with evidence with relevant and updated resources. Later on, I'm going to tell you one of the drawbacks or potential drawbacks of self-study research in that it is questionable in terms of the theoretical basis. Yeah, but Dr. Zulfikar has taught us, it's not only told but taught, yeah, taught us that with the very good relevant and updated relevant resources we can answer this questionable theory regarding the use of self-study research. And then, yeah, he has chosen a very suitable chosen research method, in this case self-study qualitative inquiry. But what I would like to suggest more is on the way it is written. It lacks of detail on the elaboration of how he did that by using the personal journals, but unfortunately I didn't find how and how did he record, for example, the personal journals. Earlier, just now, he explained us with the question from one of the participants on how to do that. Well, actually, I was really excited to know that to be written on the real papers. So when Dr. Zulfikar answered the question from one of the participants just now, so that's actually what I expect to be seen on that paper, because Dr. Zulfikar only wrote that he made it through the personal journals without further elaboration on how he did it. Maybe using the journals, the written journals, or maybe recording his own voice and then transcribe it and then code it, maybe using en vivo and so on and so on. So I would incline to have a look at this one. And what is really inspiring as well is that the story was narrated, yeah, from the earliest stage of English learning to the experience of him doing the English teaching. So tadi Ibu Sundusia, Ane Sundusia has already also explained that the story was narrated when he started his English learning, which simultaneously not long ago after that Dr. Zulfikar started doing teaching. So that's the point when he did the reflection of his own experience as an English learner. So he successfully on the writing of the paper listed in a very detailed way on how the strengths and then also the weaknesses and then reshape his own teaching on the later stage. So that is really impressive. And then if we read the article, we will see, so a reflection of him is basically is a cyclic process of roles transformation, starting when he was a student and then becoming a teacher and then return again to be a student. Yeah, when he pursued his master and then also his doctorate degree, including the pre-departure orientation. Yeah, and then also another one when he became the teacher. So it's a likely process of roles transformation. So that leads us to a very important conclusion that when we do the reflections, yeah, it needs to be done holistically. Yeah, refer back again, reflect back again on our previous English learning as well as English teaching experience. Yeah, that will shape how good we are in teaching for the future and then also the current student. And then also in terms of content, he wrote rationale why critical reflection is not a common practice, yeah, in the Indonesian setting. Well, actually, the key theories in the critical inquiry into this concept dated back in the work of John Dewey, yeah, around 1910, and then also further elaborated by Donald Scone, yeah, in 1987, and then Paulo Freire in 1970. He wrote that one of the drawbacks, one of the causes why the critical reflection is not a common practice is on the rote system of the Indonesian education system, yeah, which mostly centered on memorization. So that inhibits us, yeah, everyone, yeah, almost everyone in Indonesia is not used to do the reflection on their own. But I believe that the reason is more than that. Perhaps, yeah, this is just my assumption, and then also my my argument. It can also be dated back again if it's not too far to the government of the new order, yeah, where the president always what is it always encourages people in the concept of the social harmony. Perhaps, yeah, I don't know, but this is just my theory, where everything is lived in harmony, so there's nothing to be contested on, nothing to worry about, nothing to be questioned. So perhaps, yeah, that also leads us, because that one was promoted quite extensively, yeah, all over Indonesia. In Indonesia, is everything is fine. You don't need to think anything about. You don't need to reflect on whatever going on and things like this and that. So everything was looked to be perfect. So people are not really used to find the what is it to do the reflection. According to Dewey, yeah, he argues that reflective thinking initially is prompted by a desire to deal with some puzzled condition. That's what Dewey said. But during that time, yeah, everything was meant to be perfect. Yeah, everyone lives in harmony, so no need to question about anything. So that perhaps, yeah, one of the potential causes of why critical reflection was not really common in Indonesia. And then the next thing that we can consider is also due to the goal of education in Indonesia, mostly related to the test. Yeah, the goal of the education is mostly on driving the students to be success, yeah, on doing the examination, especially the high stakes one, for example the UN, or maybe reaching a high standard of GPA, yeah, and then graduate fast. Yeah, that also becomes one of the motivational drive, yeah, perhaps, yeah, why critical reflection is not common in the Indonesian context, because people, educators, and then also students are really required to be successful, yeah, in reaching those high standardized tests. And then also another one of the reasons why critical reflection is not that common in Indonesia, in my opinion, is also because of the personal issues. Yeah, especially dealing with the cultural factors. Yeah, cultural factors. Someone who are not really used to evaluate himself or herself. Yeah, so it's not common. Yeah, even if we do the reflection on our teaching, we do believe that it is not for the sake of us, but also for the sake of our students. So those are some of the reason, yeah, why the reasoning of the rationale perhaps that could be added, yeah, to add the value of the article. Perhaps, I don't know, Dr. Zulfikar can debate me on this one later on. And then a very good strong theoretical basis, yeah, Dr. Zulfikar has highlighted, yeah, the work of Dewey, yeah, John Dewey, and then also Donald Scone, yeah, relating to the critical reflections. It says on the article, basically, reflections consists of three things. Yeah, the first is reflection on, second one is a reflection in, and the third one is a reflection for practices. Yeah, or in other words, it says by Van Manen, it is anticipatory reflection. Basically, in short, reflection on is when people do the reflection, yeah, after their work. Yeah, for example, after teaching, after the end of the semester, and so on. While reflection in is a kind of reflection when the educators do that during the teaching. Yeah, because sometimes we as educators need to act straight away on the condition of the class, for example. For example, we might see on the students being naughty, for example, or being noisy, or being not really interested on our performance during teaching. So when we do reflection in teaching, so that's what we do at the same time when we do the teaching. And then also reflection for practices. Yeah, that's the example when we prepare our reflection prior to the teaching. So that is really a loop combination with reflection in teaching. Yeah, so what we Other experts says this as anticipatory reflection. I would uh, be more interested if other theory regarding the what is it, the theoretical basis of the critical refraction added the idea of Paulo Freire. Yeah, because he adds another insightful theory on the critical reflection by relating that to the social and political factor. Yeah, and then also the work of Van Manen in 1977, where he added three other potential factor of the reflection, that it deals as well with the technical. Yeah, the technical is close to the reflection in teaching. Yeah, and then also on teaching, and then also for teaching. Yeah, and then also the second one is on the practical level. And then what should be on the next hierarchy of the reflection is on the critical level. Yeah, so teachers need to think about the social, the cultural, and then also the political context of their teaching and the ethical issue which may interfere with their teaching. Yeah, so Van Manen has reminded us that the critical reflection should not only on the technical and practical level. So we have to do this also on the critical level, meaning that we need to reflect whether our teaching has made an impact, for example, to the society. If there is no difference on the society, means that our teaching is not that successful. So Van Manen has elaborated very nicely that we shouldn't stop on the reflection on in and then also for practice, but also add the critical reflection on our teaching, noting that the element of the social, yeah, or impact to the society is very useful. And then the next one is also, when I read the article, I suddenly realized also the importance of the four language skills. Yeah. So during our learning, and then also, of course, during the experience of Dr. Zulfikar's, yeah, sometimes that the language was taught in isolation. Yeah, or using focus more on the grammar and then also the reading. So Dr. Zulfikar nicely elaborated through his own experience and learning that this shouldn't be done that way. So the integration of our language skills are a must and should be integrated every time we do the teaching. And then also, the article has reminded me the reveal of the role model of teachers towards their students. So we as educators are truly the role models of our students. If we do bad, perhaps that the students will do bad as well. So that's one of the very high burden that is given on us as educators in Indonesia, because normally we sometimes we are demanded too high as the educators of the students. So if the students fail, man, it's all on the fault of the teacher and the educators. Well, actually, education is everyone's responsibility, including the government and then also the family of the students. Yeah. So, but anyway, this reminded us that anyway we are the role models of the students. The way we teach will shape the teaching of our students in the future, especially for us who currently teach at the Faculty of Education and Training. The way we teach, yeah, will inspire either bad or good, yeah, to our students. So we need to be really careful in delivering our teaching. And then also, this is very important. When I read that, and then suddenly I can relate this with my own thesis, yeah, with my dissertation, and this looks to confirm with the result of my thesis. It says that the personal attributes, yeah, are very important and sometimes outweighs the subject matter and then also the pedagogical skills. So this is one of the summaries of my one of the major findings of my dissertations as well. This is, in my opinion, very important, that there is a mismatch between what teacher and then what students believe of the characteristics of effective teaching. For us as educators and teachers, we believe that the acquisition or our comprehension on subject matter and the way we teach students
are very important, even more important than our interpersonal relationship. But on the research, and then what has been highlighted by Dr. Zulfikar, the personal attributes or the interpersonal skills of the lecturers are even more important than the subject matter and the pedagogical skills. So this is one thing which is very important for us to do the reflection on, because it's not only about the way we understand the subject matter, and then also it's not only the way we deliver the subject matter to our students, but it is about how our personal attributes, will play a major role in our teaching. And in my research, attributes, a good interpersonal and then also personal relationship outweighs, the way we understand the subject matter and then the way we deliver the pedagogical skills. So let's do the reflection. Which ones are we more focused on? If we focus more on how we deliver the knowledge and then also our mastery towards the knowledge, and forgetting about the interpersonal relationship with our students, we might not be good. We might not be a good educator. So that's why if you have a look at the survey, for example, on the selection of the most favorite teacher or lecturer, it must be the one who has a good interpersonal skills. It's not the one who understands the subject matter well, and also the pedagogical, but it is the one who are having a very good interpersonal skills. Experience when developing a curriculum of English, that affection, again, affection, the love to our students, and then also a friendly classroom atmosphere plays a major role in our teaching. And then also when we teach language, practice and exposure to English, should be made available. So that's why it raises the importance of the English learning communities that we have to develop on our department. So the teaching is not only happening in class, but also outside in the larger community. For example, we might have some kind of like English day, for example, Monday and Thursday. So everyone should speak in English. If everyone fails the English, they can treat their colleague or friend with a coffee, maybe, so on and so on. And then also, Dr. Zulfikar has the importance of a very well prepared lesson plans prior to entering the class. So this is very important for us as well. And then also he wrote a lot about the internal and external motivation. Integrative, instrumental, and then also motivational intensity can be added as well on our teaching. So for us who have reached high education, so this will also motivate our students to reach the same as us. So internal and external motivations are very important in addition to the integrative, instrumental, and then motivational intensity. And then also promoting the role of attitudes. The way students see how positive their attitudes towards English learning, and if they do it in a vice versa, in a negative way, it will affect their acquisition towards the language. And to sum up, again, a very well academic paper deserved for publication at an international journal. Perhaps Dr. Zulfikar can add it by using some kind of like testimony, perhaps from the colleagues and then also from the students on how he did the teaching. Perhaps that this could be an extension of the current paper that he's doing at the moment. Maybe. Yeah. And then also later, it inspires us. Truly, when you read it, it really inspires us to always reflect on our learning and teaching. Ah, and then the self-study research, as a summary, the plus is one thing: the researcher is the data source. So we don't need to be cautious or maybe confused on where to get the data, because the data is on ourselves. So everything just needs to be recorded, everything needs to be written, everything needs to be transcribed, Yeah, and that's it. Because the data is on ourselves. Yeah, and then plus it low cost and time efficiency. Yeah, we don't need to go anywhere. Yeah, it's very low cost. We don't need to spend money. Yeah, perhaps only for doing the transcription, and then also maybe with the translation, or maybe other thing. Perhaps if we need the educational software or research software and things like that. But basically, to conduct this kind of study is very low cost and then also time efficient, and it is really feasible to conduct during COVID-19. Ya. Instead of meratapi of our nasib, ya, during the COVID, ya, rather it is better for us to be productive, ya, in doing or starting our research on reflective teaching, ya, dibanding meratapi nasib nasib selama pandemi. It's better for us to do something productive, and this is very feasible to be conducted during COVID-19, because it reflects on our own experience. Yeah, the more we do reflection, yeah, it will just shape the way we teach. So those are the pluses. And then the minus is perhaps that there is a potential bias. Yeah, especially when we do the, let's say, sometimes we just choose whatever good for us. Yeah, the negative one we don't want to explore or reveal. Yeah, because that leads to the subjectivity of the researcher as the source of data as well. And then also the next one, perhaps that there is a potential weak theoretical basis, but Dr. Zulfikar has highlighted, if we do as he did, yeah, of course that we are able to eliminate this kind of weaknesses. Ah, so far, that's the end of my review, and then also for the self-study research. Do I still have some time to explain on how to be productive during pandemic?
Sure, Pak Dirin, take your time.
Okay, you don't mind,
Plenty.
yeah? You don't get bored, Dr. Zulfikar, listening
Not
to
at
my
all, Pak.
friends.
It's really good.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
everyone.
go ahead,
Now,
Badidin. Go ahead. Sure
yeah,
thing.
let's nail this on the COVID-19. This is the data from the early of August 2020 that the COVID-19 has struck almost part of the world. Yeah, there are 216 countries, and in Indonesia it has into 34 provinces. Yeah, meaning the all over provinces in Indonesia, and it leads to the major changes of the daily life of ourselves and then also the people everywhere in the world. Now the business has started to go down. Yeah, the production of the publication, maybe, yeah, to some extent there are ups and downs. Yeah, and then also the physical health of the people deteriorate, and everything starts to be minimized. And the most important thing is we need to reflect on Charles Darwin's quote. Yeah, back that maybe 2 centuries ago, he asserted that it is not the strongest nor the intelligent who will survive, but the most responsive to change. Yeah, the key questions on his quote is on the creativity and innovation. Yeah, so if we fight against these changes, of course that we will never survive. Yeah, but the way we are able to be responsive to this change, yeah, will lead us to be one of the successful species on earth. Now in my opinion, the key, there are three actually. The first one is the creativity, the second one is innovation, and then the third one is how we can always think positively on whatever we are facing. Those three things are very important. Now, the next big question is how we can be more productive, especially with the publication. Yeah, these three. Yeah. First one, creativity, innovation, and positive mindset. Yeah, positive mindset means whatever we are facing, we should be always be able to see from the positive side. Yeah, in whatever my presentation, I always highlight this one because this works really well in almost aspects of humans' life. Whenever they face something, a negativity, they need to contract this with the positive mindset, and everything will be look better. The first one. Now, where we can get the how can we do? How can we reach a very good productivity during the COVID-19? The first one is the one that we are discussing at the moment, highlighting the importance of self-study research. one of the drawbacks in this COVID-19 is on the limitation for us to collect the data. Yeah, for example, we can't do any longer, perhaps yeah, a minimum um, possibility to do, for example, the what is it, the cyclic process of the teaching, for example. If we do some kind of like intervention and then we see the results, that is highly unlikely to be done during the COVID-19 era, because the schools and then also the universities are closing down at the moment. So by doing self-study research, yeah, this opens our new experience of doing something new, yeah, with this. I have read, yeah, a quite number of self-study research, but to be honest, I haven't done this one. But yeah, so but I'm really inspired to start working on this one, because I just realized there are other things that I can do with the research during the COVID pandemic. So I have to thank again Dr. Zulfikar for reminding me of this very good method of research. And then the second one, that we can get the idea from the thesis and then also the dissertation. Yeah, there are so many things that we can explore from this. We can have a look again. Yeah, our thesis and this dissertation. For example, our dissertation can be broken down into more than 10 pieces of articles. Yeah, this is what I'm doing at the moment. Yeah, so breaking down my dissertation is one of the powerful way to improve our productivity, yeah, during the COVID-19, because we've got the data anyway. Yeah, one of the drawbacks, as I mentioned earlier, is on how to obtain the data. But if it's on our thesis or dissertation, the data were there. Everything. What we need to do is just to work on them and then see the angle of the things that we haven't done. And then the next idea come from the new articles, the things which are completely new. Yeah, we can develop our paper based on this one. And then also based on the class assignments. Yeah, of course, all of us have done a lot of this. Yeah, a few months ago, I published an article in Sinta 2 journals. The idea came from my master degree class assignment that was back on 2008. So that was 12 years ago. And then I did work on that one, reformulate it again, rewriting that again, adding some more data, and then adjust it with the current context, and that's it. Yeah, that was publishable on the Sintatu national journals. And then also another idea come from the online learning during COVID. This is what I'm doing as well. Yeah, there are some research papers that I currently do with the fellow students and then also lecturers on the ideas based on the online learning. Yeah, we can have a look at the drawbacks of online learning. We can have a look at the effectiveness of online learning. Yeah, we can see the potentials of online learning and so on and so on. Yeah, and then also perhaps we can also direct on our research on whether the online learning promote the self-regulated learning of the students. Yeah, because that's one of the claims, yeah, that is being developed at the moment, whether online learning is truly able to develop the self-regulated learning of our students. So this warrant a further investigation. And then how do we do it? The first one, of course, that we can do it individually. Yeah. And then the next one, we can think of our other sources of strengths which come from the internal lecturers. Yeah, from the same department, for example, or from the same institutions. Yeah, we can start working together with them to develop the research proposal, and then also the research article. And then the next one, we may reflect also the collaboration with the external lecturers. Yeah, for example, I and Dr. Zulfikar and Ibu Kudwatin can start doing research collaboration as well. Yeah, looking from different perspectives or perhaps multidisciplinary. It's not only coming from the same discipline, but we can also have a look at the multidisciplinary, perhaps that we can work together with the our fellow colleagues who are psychologists and then also lecturers, or maybe from the political field, or maybe from the social field. There are a lot of things that we can do actually doing a collaboration. And then the next one, we can also work as well on our together with our students. Students are very powerful. I have published some articles, yeah, together with the students, yeah. So this also shaped the research articles of myself. And then also we can always relate to our overseas colleagues. Yeah, we can start rebuild the connection. Perhaps that it has been not going for quite some times. Yeah, we can start doing this one and then see the collaboration with the our overseas colleagues as well. And then the next one, in terms of the methods of the or the fields, yeah, it can be done through the meta-analysis. For example, if we are confused on what kind of methods that we can take, meta-analysis is one of the promising tools, research methods. Yeah, now it's growing, yeah, especially during COVID, where everyone has a trouble in collecting the data. Yeah, we can do that through secondary sources. Yeah, doing the meta-analysis. Even we can also promote this to our students as what is it as an alternative for them in writing their scriptsy, and this has been legalized by the letter from our Director General of Islamic Education, saying in the letter that meta-analysis can be used, yeah, as the methods for doing the scriptsy. And then, of course, with the narrative inquiry, the one that we are discussing, yeah, in the general term, self-study is included into the narrative inquiry, yeah, looking at the experience, yeah, of someone or people. And then the next one which is also time efficient and cost efficient, is doing discourse analysis. Yeah, I've published some articles on discourse analysis, including one that I published in Dr. Zulfikar's journals, yeah, department, English. Yeah, yeah. I work a lot on discourse analysis throughout this COVID-19 because it's really interesting to have a look. Yeah, we analyze songs. Yeah, we analyze video. We analyze speeches. Even we analyze what is written on the commuter line. Yeah, on the train. We also analyze the YouTube videos. Yeah, there are a lot of great ideas that we can do using the discourse analysis. Yeah, no need to think about where we get the data. The data is just on the internet there. Yeah, we can always do that. And not to be boastful, but so far from March until August, so by doing this kind of strategies, yeah, working collaboratively with students, with individually with my fellow colleagues, internal, external, and then also with my overseas colleague. So from March until August, so I always take a good side of pandemic where I cannot go anywhere. Yeah, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't meet Dr. Zulfikar. I couldn't meet everyone out there. Yeah, in short, during pandemic, yeah, I've never gone anywhere. So this is a good one for me to sit on my chair and work on the articles that have never finished before. And the result was really amazing, in my opinion, because during March and August, yeah, 40 articles have been submitted and 22 articles have been published, yeah, mostly on the nationally accredited journals using the strategy that I have mentioned before. So it's not done by myself individually. That is impossible for me to be able to do this far, but by doing a collaborative, yeah, and then also the individual work with others, and then also doing the various research work in many different research methods, yeah, this is really possible. Okay, thank you. That's all. If you want to reach me, you can shoot me an email, or maybe if you are interested in knowing how narcissistic I am, you can have a look at my at my Instagram, yeah, at Didin Nuruddin Hidayat. Okay, I think that's all that I can say for this presentation. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Zulfikar, and then also Ibu Kudwatin Nisa for this valuable opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Adil.
you, Pak Didin Nuruddin Hidayat, for a really good critical review toward Dr. Zulfikar work, and also an additional information to us regarding the the way how to deal with the pandemic, and also several other important part in related to research. But now we move to Bu Anis Sundusia. I'm quite sure Bu Anis is ready now because the kid is already asleep. Okay, Bu
He
Anis,
is sleeping now.
it's time for
I'm
you
back.
now.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
to continue.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Bu Atin and Pak Didin, for the presentation. That was quite a review that you can turn it to be an article itself, like an article review for Pak Zulfikar's paper. Right. And well, speaking of self-study, pandemic, and work from home, it is true that lots of papers, research paper has been developed, has been made, has been crafted from the situations. And Pak Didin's ideas, suggestions on the last slides are really, really helpful to sort of improve productivity and everything. I'm just gonna share like 3-4 short slides, basically my impressions or my review on Dr. Zulfikar's article, and then I think we have lots of time to move to the question answer sessions, and hopefully I can chip in more on that part too. So I'm gonna share the screen right now, but I couldn't. Okay, screen.
You can share the screen.
Can you see my slide now?
Not yet.
Is it up now?
No.
Okay, technology breakdown again. Basic screen.
Share screen.
I did. Okay.
Yes.
All right. How
It's
is it
coming.
now? It's coming, but it's still dark
Yeah.
on my. Not this one.
It's coming. Yeah. Is
Yes.
that the one?
Can everyone see this?
Yes.
It's not that one that I need. I'm that. Oh, that one. This is what I need to share. Is it on the screen now? Self-study?
No.
Not yet.
Oh, well, okay, review. Right,
Yes.
how about this? Okay.
It's coming. Yes. I think that's the one.
Yes. So this is the pictures that I want to show everyone. That this is my impressions of reading Pak Zulfikar's article or any other self-studies or auto-ethnography. To me, self-study is another type of ethnography where you can. So the stage sulaman, ya kan? What we often see from other people is the front side of sulaman or the stage, but in the back side you can see this messy part of it. You can see tambal sulam, you can see wrong thread, you can see different colors what actually mix in it. There might be green or something, but somehow it doesn't show up on the front side. So my impressions of many self-study research is that you narrate, you retell the story of the back part of your learning or achievement or strategies or anything, and then you present it in a scholarly way. You present it in a systematic way, in a methodological way, by basically you are telling what happened behind the screen. This is how I struggle, this is how I learn, this is how I improve, and then this is how I make sense my learning experience and come to these conclusions that I'm happy to share and present it in this paper. So that's basically one way of saying what a self-study is, what an auto-ethnography is. And in the article, Pak Zulfikar also mentioned about positionality. And I saw questions also about bias, and Pak Didin also mentioned about bias. Bias is not plus, and bias can be a plus, bias can be a minus too. But there's no such thing as non-bias in research, especially when we talk about qualitative traditions, right? But what we can do is to minimize, not to minimize, to put it as an informed bias, that your history, your social and cultural context, your political, your baggage, what you carry all day long, what sticks on you, your social attributes, will one way or many ways will interfere, will influence the way you think, the way you make sense, the way you strategize, and the way you come up with the conclusions. So bias is always there, but what we can do, like what Pak Zulfikar put out in his article, is you inform the readers about your positionality, about your historical, social, and cultural background, where you come from, where do you go to school, that you learn more than one foreign languages, not just English, but also Arabic, and that somehow affect you, how we learn, how we absorb concepts in one language to another, and how that inspire us to learn vocabularies, to teach vocabularies, and so on. So bias is always there, but you need to make it to make the readers informed of your bias, your background, your cultural baggage, right? And then self study or auto ethnography is about making sense of the learning. You recall the experience. In the article, Pazul mentioned recalling his experiences, willing to admit mistakes, to try error the strategies, improve the strategies, and so on. He only mentioned several examples, but I'm sure, again, as behind the sulaman, behind the stages, there are so many things that happen behind the screen, and he only picked several examples of it. It's a repetitive process. Pak Didin also mentioned this. This is a cyclic process of constantly asking yourself, how do I make sense of this error, of this experience? How can I learn? What can I do to improve this? And you wrote this down. You back it up with some scholarly research paper and literatures, and that becomes your research paper on self-study. Whether you do it as whether the purpose is to write a paper or not, it takes endurance to remain to be an active learners, to be critical thinking, to be reflexive, to be honest, to willing to see the errors, willing to hear suggestions and critics and everything. The other takeaway message, the other takeaway message is that to do a self-study like the paper that Dr. Zulfikar mentioned, that Fazul mentioned, is about being active learners, is not just an end result. It's not just one snapshot of time, but it's an ongoing process to actively improve yourself, to actively grow, to actively respond to changes, but didn't also mention. And this has a lot of things to do with this psychological field about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. If you fixed mindset is like
Hmm?
fixed mindset is
Ya,
this is how I speak.
itu
This is
harus
how
diituin lagi, harus di copy lagi.
Adidin, you need to mute.
Aduh, lupa.
It's okay. Fixed
Sorry.
mindset and growth mindset. I know we're catching up with the time, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but I'm happy to discuss what is this and how this might affect our learning. Prospect and challenges. Yes, these are several things that I would like to see in the next incoming papers, Pazul or Padidin, or anyone who is going to do a self-studies on being active learners or being reflective instructors. How is it for us to teach to our kids, to our students, to be an active learners? What does it take to be an active learners? What does it take for us to teach students to be an active learners? That should be an ongoing discussions, and this is endless. Because this is endless, then this is a potential for you guys to do research, to do self-study on this. what makes a learner an active learner, and hence what makes a classroom, our classroom, inside or outside classroom, an active learning situations that enable or stimulate students to be active, to be reflexive, to be critical thinking, to be honest, and all this characteristic of active learners. How to maintain and sustain ourselves to remain to be an active learners, that's also a prospect or challenges or ideas to proceed. And this is also the problem of modern people. How do we find, and then if we find the time, how do we manage to do a self-talk, to date yourself, to make sense all the problems, learnings here and there, and to turn it into an uh, auto ethnographic paper plan, right? Or the process of finding this itself can be another paper of self-study, finding time to talk to yourself and to be in a solitude, to date yourself so that you can clear mind and identify what kind of research paper you want to do in the future. Okay, I think that's I only have 3-4 short slides basically to wrap up everything, and I'm looking forward to another to respond the questions and to continue discussing on this. Thank you so much, and I thank you for understanding on my situations before with the baby and everything. Right. Thank you. Assalamualaikum, Bu Atin.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bu Anis, for providing a review. And also, I like the way Ibu Anis tried to make an analogy with stitches, like you present something really neatly, but behind the scenes, you never know what's going on,
Right.
It's really need a hard effort to publish something, and then it become an auto ethnography, as you mentioned. Okay, we already have 2 questions from Hijatul Kamaria. I think we go directly to the question and answer session. Hijatul Kamaria want to conduct her own self-study, but still confused about the process of collecting the data and analyze the data. How to keep the data and finding of the research not bias in this study. So how to deal with the bias, even though Bu Anis already mentioned about the bias before, but precisely how to deal with this kind of things. Probably Pak T. Zulfikar can answer it first, and then Bu Anis and Pak Didin can add later. Okay.
Okay, I think I would like to invite the guest speaker first to answer.
Okay.
Bu Anis or Pak Didin.
Pak Anis or Pak
Bu
Didin
Anis.
want to respond to this question?
Yes. So as I mentioned before, when it comes to qualitative study, there's no such thing as non-bias. We always have influence. We always be influenced by our subjectivity, right? That you are woman, for example, then you might have different way of seeing worlds. That you are from Aceh or me from Semarang, we have different ways of testing which food is better or not, which one is hot, which one is spicy or not. Those kind of thing is always attached on us, whether it's physically or mentally or psychologically or academically or professionally. And it's inevitable, nggak bisa dihilangkan. It's there, and you just have to acknowledge it, and you have to mention how those things, how those cultural baggage, how those professional academic background influence the way you design your paper, influence the way you collect the data, influence the way you analyze, making sense of the findings and everything. So it's okay to be not to be biased, but you just have to mention what are those biases.
Okay, I think Hija can got the point that it's okay to be biased, but as long as you inform the readers, right?
Yes, it's an informed bias. I hope that
Yeah.
respond to the questions. Pazul, you might want to add something based on your
Okay.
package.
Pak Didin
Yeah.
probably want.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That is the one that I have highlighted as well on my presentation. That the
Yeah.
potential of bias,
Bias.
especially when we do the self-study research, yeah, or the narrative inquiry that deals with ourselves as as the lecturers. I think, yeah, that is a really what is it? Quite normal, yeah, to be quite difficult to remove the bias. The bias itself cannot be removed completely, but what we can do is by minimizing them. Yeah, one way to do it is by using the other experts' judgment. Yeah, for example, once we have narrated our story and then compile that into data, perhaps that we can ask the other experts or perhaps our colleagues to have a look at the presentation of the data. Yeah, it's very important for us to have the outsider views. Yeah, perhaps that they might question on certain data that we wrote there. Yeah, perhaps that he might question as well the things that might be hidden or the thing which are too bombastic perhaps. Yeah, so by
Right.
having that external outsider view, that will be very important for us to reduce that potential minimal bias. And then also when we know that we're going to apply that external the outsider views, of course that when we started the research and then narrated the data or the story or everything, perhaps that we know that we have a referee to watch us. Yeah, so that will inhibit us to some extent with that potential bias. And then the second idea is on to be explicit as possible on the methodology section. Yeah, we have to write everything in detail, including on how we did the data collection, how we did, for example, the transcription, and then how we analyze the data. Yeah, by presenting holistically on the methodology section, I think it will work well, yeah, to minimize the potential of bias. I think those are the ideas in my opinion. Thank you.
Can I also add something? Tailing from Pak Didin, from what Pak Didin just mentioned, that we have another person's readers or reviewers that also need to be mentioned on the methodology. That this is part of the cross analysis. We have someone else as a outsider reviewers or outsider readers to help us reshape the findings or the analysis. Thank you.
Okay. Pak Azul, do you want to add
Yep.
more
Yeah,
before
I
I?
think I just can add some things, add to the information that have been given by the other two speakers. To my experience, that I mentioned early on that being a researcher is a being an honest person. You need to be honest in the way you describe your finding. And in fact, as Ibu Anis and Pak Adil mentioned earlier on, to really mention it in methodology, whom you ask for the advice, and what the process of your data collections. You need to really detail, make it detailed in your methodology sections. And in fact, in the research, in qualitative research, we have a kind of member check, respondent validations, where we check and recheck uh, to our participants if we have the participant in terms of ethnographic study, for example. So I really agree with what the other two speakers have mentioned early on. You need to build the rapport, that you need to mention everything that you have written and the way you collected the data. You are willing to admit the mistake. That is what Bu Anis also mentioned early on. So being a researcher, you need to be honest and transparent in the way you describe the things. So this is the one key in self-study research, where we really need to admit and admit everything that we have done, do it, give transparency, and also the way we analyze the data, we also can read other people work, eh, the same work as what we are going to do. So in that case, in that sense, we can take how people do the analysis and how other people do the data collections. So I think that to add to what have been discussed earlier on. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's really answer clearly the question from Hijatul Kamaria, that you need to minimize the bias by doing, as Pak Didin has mentioned before, like explicitly, clearly mentioning, detailing mentioning how you conduct, yeah, the data, and then how you present it to the reader is really important. And then also you ask some colleagues and the outside, as the outsiders, to have a member check whether there's something that it still need to be clarified, and also being honest and transparent, as Pak Tezulfikar already mentioned just now. I think it's really minimize the potential of the bias for our research, self-study research. Okay, we still have two more questions. And from Widya Astuti, an alumni of UIN AR-RANIRY Banda Aceh. She is currently preparing to conduct a research to complete her master degree, and she plans to conduct self-study research. The question is how to minimize the potential bias that might happen. And I'm sure that is already answered by the presenters all. And probably later on, in case the panelists want to add more information, you may add. And one more from someone, she really want to know whether self-study research can it be applied in another field like health science, for example? Can we do the self-study research in this particular field? Okay.
Yeah, can I answer it first?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
Pak.
self-study research can be applied in many different fields of study. Yeah, as long as it narrates the story, yeah, experience and other similar things. Yeah. In terms of the health science, of course, for example, when let's say medical practitioner or maybe from the other similar fields with that one, yeah, they can reflect also on their experience dealing with that one. So self-study research is not exclusively on education. Even if I'm not mistaken, the self-study research or the narrative inquiry does not come originally from the education field. If I'm not mistaken, that came from the marketing, if I'm not mistaken. But then it has a widespread dissemination and then started to gain its prominence in some other fields, including education. So basically, it's not methods exclusively used in education field, but that can be applied to other fields. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pak Teh, probably
Okay,
want
Bu
to.
Watin. Thank you, Pak Didin, for adding up to that information. Yeah, self-study research is not does not belongs to specifically belong to the educational field, but since we are like I am from the background of education, so that's what I'm doing now. As long as you follow the procedures as how self-study research is conducted, that's already there, which is self-initiated and self-focused. So you need to really reflect on your own experience as an health practitioners, and also uh, retell that in terms of in academic way. And I believe that health practitioner like community health atau kesehatan masyarakat, I think you have tons of issues that you need to explore in terms of self-study research. And also I found so many work on reflective practices in health practice in health science. So I think go ahead, you can write it, so everybody can write it, and this it is very academic. And some people just say, why, what the heck is that you are doing? You are doing yourself, you're telling about yourself. And this is not very academic. So I mean, someone who are in traditional um, kind of methodology, they will think that way. I mean, like, and if I may mention that this my article was published in the Q1 Scopus Journal. So I think this is very academic work to do, as long as you really can communicate between your narrative and also the theory. And also there are so many dissertations or theses have been written in narrative inquiry or self-study report. In Australia at the moment, say for example, there are tons of research were conducted on that issues in that methodology. So to answer the questions or to conclude, our answer that self-study research can be conducted in all fields as long as it is self-initiated and self-focused, and as long as it tell the narrative and you give the meaning to your own narrative to improve your future performance. I think that's the answer, Watin.
Okay, thank you very much for all of the answer from the panelists. It's really clear. I think it can be done in many fields as long as it retell your own story, and then as you mentioned, self-initiated and clearly, detailedly explain what you are going to discuss in your self-study, of course. And I think we have one more question. I hope there are a lot in the Q&A. We wait for another question. And this comes from Yulia Fernandita. The question is about suggestion for college students who want to start to write and publish article. Is there any suggestion how to write and publish article? I'm quite sure and Pak
Yes.
Tejulvika and Bu Anis know. Yeah, really
Yeah.
excited about this. Please, Pak Didi.
Okay. There are some suggestions. Yeah, for those who would like to start publishing their article. Thing which is very important is do a collaboration. Yeah, especially for the students to collaborate with their peers or with their lecturers. I think it will be really helpful for them, yeah, as an early or as a novice researcher to work collaboratively with their teachers, yeah, or their lecturers, and then also with their peers, because by doing so, they are doing the burden. Let's say if we take this as a burden, shared with the others, yeah, because if we do it individually, sometimes whenever there's an obstacle coming, usually it will trigger us to easily give up. Yeah, but if we do it collaboratively, there are many eyes who are watching us, and then we share the burden with them. Perhaps we don't make a quite progress at at the certain time, but the others make it, and then it triggers our spirit and motivation to reach what our fellow achieve. So the key point is on the collaboration, and then the second one is do not look far. Yeah, from anything. One thing that I'd like to remind everyone, including myself, is big achievement comes from an, small steps. Yeah, come from small steps. Yeah, so if we think that we have an idea to work on, we have to start it immediately. Yeah, if we have written, for example, a few sentences as a starter, it will generate like a snowballing effect to the subsequent sentences. But if we have never started, so that makes it very difficult to reach the further step. So we have to do basically the promising or the potential steps that we have to make. And then the next one is sometimes a pressure is very important as well. Uh, for example, you can ask someone to give you pressure. For example, you can ask the head of the department to oblige you, yeah, to publish. Yeah, because I have several experience with this, with the master student. So they have a pressure when they apply for the final examination. At least they have to have the LOA, yeah, for publication. So that's why it really triggers them. And then because sometimes whenever I have done a class assignment, it depends on the pressure. If they are on the final stage, so they know that they will get an LOA for publication, that they will after the class finishes, they will approach me and then ask as the lecturers and then ask, can we proceed this to the publication? Why do you want B to be in a hurry? Because I have to submit it when I would like to register for the final exam. So sometimes pressure does work. Yeah. So make ourselves a pressure, and everything will run as we expect. Yeah. So basically there are three things. Yeah. Collaboration. Yeah. And then also sometimes the pressure will work well, and then also starting everything with the small steps. Then the big steps, yeah, will grow accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, it's really inspiring, Pak Didin. Start with a small step because I like your, it's a kind of Pak Didin's quote for today. Big achievement start from a small step. Yeah, totally agree with you. Yeah. Anytime you start to write and then it's like a snowball, it will continue to grow. Yeah. Okay, Bu Anis and Lucia, probably you want to ask more, answer more. Yeah, add more.
Um, well, I'm not really have a lots of experience of publications, unlike Pak Didin or Pak Zulfikar. But as Pak Didin mentions, small steps, small journals, local, national, regional journals. That's also start. And the other thing that I would like to share is my advisor's advice that there is no good writer yang ada, but there is good editor
Oh,
because nobody writes one time and then it's done. It's always write first draft, second draft, you edit, re-edit, and compose and everything. So there's no good writer, but good editors. That's what makes a paper's done or a publication's done. I hope that sticks on everybody's mind as well as on me, so that we don't putting off writing.
yeah, I agree with you, Bu Anis, because yeah, without editing, it's never gonna be work well, and then it's never looks good. Yeah, better day by day, right? You need to edit, and then you publish. Okay, Pak T. Zulfikar, probably you have.
Yeah, I think really I do agree with the ideas from Pak Didin and Bu Anis as well. Um, to me, if one people ask how to publish, I say write, revise, revise, and revise because we never write perfectly. I have an experience that I published my dissertation into a book, and what the editors say, they asked me to ask the native speaker to revise and to proofread. And in fact, my dissertation before I submit, I have gone the proofreading for a very long time by native speaker as well. So I think it's keep coming. So don't wait for perfection. That my quote maybe. If you wait for perfection, you never start. Because the biggest challenge is to start the writing. So we know Bu Ani, Abu Watin in Australia, and Pak Didin, procrastination is a very word that mentions all over the place by students, because in Australia we don't have the coursework. So if we procrastinate, we never write. So like in the US, for example, doing PhD, Bu Anis, they get the pressure from the coursework. Maybe there's another way, another strategy to do. So yeah, I really appreciate if someone want to ask question on how to publish, because publication is not easy. But if you keep that in your mind, that publication is not easy, so we will never publish. And remember the slide given by Bu Anis, the two hats, with one, the opportunities, the limited growth, and then another one. So you just say, if you limit yourself, so you never publish because you always think that you are not a very good author or not very good writers. And we do believe almost all of us not very good writers, but most of us at least can publish if we start doing it. Okay, I'd like to a bit, what do you call it, give credit to Bu Anis and also Bu Anis for our experience being in Ohio in, intensive English OP. So I mentioned that in my article. So Bu Anis, maybe you can look at that, whether I have that kind of experience, whether I tell lie in my writings about Ohio Program of Intensive English OP, because we studied this time, we took the same training with Bu Anis in 2004, 2004 at Ohio Program of Intensive English, and I put that into my article as well as my experience as the students. So I don't know, Bu Watin, is there any more
Yeah,
questions or?
yeah. There is one more
Okay, just go ahead.
question from Ruslin. She talked about what are preconditions for researchers to do a collaborative study in a self-study, and how will do data collection and do analysis in such a way that to meet a well-developed data presentation and analysis with a good result in the research and then meet the publication standard. So when you do a collaborative study in a self-study, what are the preconditions for the researchers?
I think Pak Didin, you wanna hit it? You wanna you wanna start? Hello, Pak Didin.
Okay.
Pak Didin is
Ya,
not
Pak
there.
Azul aja, Pak Azul.
Oh, saya aja. Okay, okay. Okay, good. You may add later on, Pak Didin and Bu Anis, right? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, this from Pak Ruslin, is it?
Yeah.
Pak
Harus.
Ruslin from Palu is also my other colleague.
Yeah.
We did the similar training in ELF Jakarta before we went to our PhD journey. Yeah, thank you, Pak Ruslin, for asking these questions. Very good questions. So self-study research actually is about a single research, single author actually, because we reflect on our own experience. So that's why you see my article, I wrote it myself because I do reflect on my own experience. But there is a but there. It is we can do the self-study research collaboratively if we are doing the same practices. Say, for example, Pak Ruslin, we have experience taking the IEL courses in ELF in 2007, I think, or 2006, if I don't mistaken. So we may reflect on what we have learned in the LF. Say, for example, got 5 or 6 of us together, we reflect on our own experience, and then we write together. So each individual give a nuance or opinion on what they feel about about their experience being a student in ELF Jakarta, for example. So there is a way, there is a door for collaboration in self-study research as well. If you do that with the same, uh, if you are doing the same practices and then you reflect on the same experience that you have already gone through. Say, for example, as I show you some references on the self-study, to us, there are multiple authors because they reflect on multiple on similar work. Say, for example, one research talking about the experience of 7 teachers doing assessment, for example. So that can become what we call it an information or a starting point to do the self-study research. So I think that's my points. You can do that if we have similar practices, so we can reflect our own practices individually, then do it collectively in the analysis. Thank you, Bawatin. Yeah.
Okay, Pak Zulfikar. Probably Bu Anis want to add related to this question.
Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that. It is not impossible to collaborate on a self-study. So the umbrella of self-study is autoethnography, right? That's the bigger strain or type of the research. One of the example of autoethnography is a self-study. And Zul mentions it is possible to do that if you have a similar practices that you want to reflect, or if you have a topic, or you want to do the data together and then separate analysis or continue to do the analysis together. It is not impossible. I have no exact response or answers to that, but it's worth a shot. And from there we can see, oh, there is a plus and minus, there is a challenges in doing this and that, and so that will become a knowledge itself, that hey, it is not impossible because on certain conditions, or this is possible on certain conditions. So there's always a way to try that out too. um, I think that's a very good question, actually. And that reminds me an autoethnography by two linguists. They try to um, to do a longitudinal studies of how their kids learn to speak. And the data is from two or three, I forgot, different linguists doing that. It's a autoethnography. It's a self-study also, because they constantly reflect on their journey, their experiences, their findings, but it's done by more than one person. So it's not impossible, but there are some rules and guidance to make it more presentable as well. I hope that menukik kesasaran. I hope that responds to the questions.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's directly answered the question. But did you want to add something?
No, no, I think it's already very clear what
Okay.
the other panelist says. One thing which is also very important is to do the narrative in the similar pattern. That's what we have to
Oh,
ensure. Because when we
oh,
narrate the story, if the template is different, yeah, it will make a confusion. Yeah, so the synchronous templates on how we narrate the story is going to be very important among researchers if they do it collaboratively. Yeah, I think that's what I would like to add.
okay. I think Pak didn't want to highlight like the way you present the data should be the same template with your friends, and then you can do the collaborative self-study. Okay, there's no more question, but I have a question for Pak Tezul Fikar, and probably Bu Anis and Pak Didin can answer based on your own experience later on. How long is the journey for you to finally publish your self-study? Yeah, for the speaker, probably for publishing your article. It doesn't have to be self-study.
Okay. So yeah, for this particular publications, I published that in 2019, so I was not mistaken, in March 2019. And I think it took me like six 6 months from submissions to publications, but it took me like another 6 months to write my self-study. And I was lucky when I write the article, I was and then I have times to do my postdoctoral program at Western Sydney University, and then in the West at Western Sydney, I reshaped and polished my work with the help of some mentors. So I think if Pak didn't say it, it looked nice. Yeah, it looked nice because the editors look nice. So they reshaped and polished my article. And there's like Ani said, di belakangnya kusut, di depannya kelihatan bagus because it's already. I have so many red ink in my articles here in Fort because the editor just the mentors, the editor and mentor just give me some feedback and I rewrite for the whole 1 month in 2019, 2018, and then no 2018 or 19, I just forgot. The whole 1 month in the month of Ramadan, I did that. I reshaped my work based on the suggestions of my mentors, and also after I submit, I got also the revisions from the reviewer, because always like what Ani says, the editors and reviewers are the man smarter than the author. They're smarter. They know more, as if they know more than the writers, so they can give us feedback. So I also revise again. So it took more and less like 1 year to write and get published. What things? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It takes a long time than you expect. Yeah.
But you can start doing your own self-study while you are there as a student, from an active PhD students to blah 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 blah. Yeah,
Good idea. Good
yeah,
idea, Pak Zulfikar. But I need to finish my dissertation first
that's
and then
good. Yeah.
self-study later on. Bu Anis, probably you have an idea.
I just want to add what Pak Zul has mentioned. The longer process is on the reviewer because they see the papers from the reader's perspective. We, the authors or the researchers, are often get too immersed in our work that sometimes we overlook or we forgot that something is missing or something needs to be connected, coherence or small details or to specific terms that needs to be translated to general audience, things like that. So that's what usually took too much time to revise and revise again.
Yeah, I agree with Bu Anis mentioning about revising will, yeah, end up with a really good article later on. But didn't you want to add? Actually, this is based on your personal experience, probably. How long will it take that your article will be published?
Yeah, relating to my experience, it really varies. So it depends on when to start and then where to submit the articles onto the journals. But my strategy is to ensure a quick turnaround. When I have a paper which are ready for publication, I always look for journals who are on the status of call for papers. Yeah, usually we can get the information from the WhatsApp group or maybe from the Instagram of publication or maybe from the Facebook as well, and then also from other channel of the social media, and then also from the website. Yeah, by doing so, there is a potential for us to have quite quick turnaround, meaning that if we are rejected, we can hear it quickly, or if it's an approval, we can also hear it quite soon. So that's one of the strategies that I apply. So I always look for journals who are on the call for papers. And then also for the international journals, also we can have a look at their websites, and please do not always hesitate to, or maybe sometimes allergic, yeah, to find if the journal impose us a publication fee. Yeah, because some journals also need to leave their journals to be open access for everyone by giving the by relieving the burden to the authors, yeah, for a publication fee. Yeah, so I think that is normal. There are journals who are we have to pay, and then also there are journals who are free, and we have choices to publish in one of those. Yeah, the good thing from the journals who apply the publication fee is that usually they have a quicker turnaround. Yeah, the good thing is, for example, I have ever submitted a journal to a paid journals, and the news for that to be rejected. Yeah, it's not always an approval, even for the journal that we have to pay for the publication fee. I received the news within only 2 weeks. Yeah, I think one of the reasons is because they can do a quick turnaround. But there are papers that I sent as well to international journals, but I haven't heard anything from them. Yeah, so there are things, there are pluses and the minuses for the journals who charge the publication fees and the journals who are free. Yeah, please do not be allergic to any of those. Just open, yeah, our mind that they are options for us to choose, because sometimes I heard there are people who, what is it, who are really allergic to one type of journal. They don't like the paid one and they don't like the free one, so it's just some kind of options in our life. Yeah, so it all depends on us which one we would like to choose. Yeah, I think that's all. So there are also, say, strategies to do publication as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for providing a strategy how to publish our article in a short period of time by looking at, yeah, several calling from the journal, and also don't be allergic, as you mentioned, to uh, the paid journal or not paid journal. Okay, I think there's no more question from the participants. Probably before we end this session, before that, I want to conclude today's talk, that we can do self-study, but we need to ensure that we do it systematically and also detailedly, mentioning to the reader so that they are not confused later on. And then try to avoid the bias by informing them, and also as Pa didn't mention, like use the expert judgment to reread your writing so that it has been checked by your colleague or friends as the outsiders, so that they know whether there is some misunderstanding or something that really need to be re-explained in your study. And also, as mentioning by Bu Anis, like you need to do editing of your article a lot so that it can be uh, resulted into a good writing. And I think a lot of discussion, which is really insightful, which we cannot mentioning one by one because all of the panelists already describe it really well. But before we close this session, I would like to ask all the panelists to, can you turn on your video, please, so that we can have a video photo session before this, yeah.
Yeah, but I think can I take a few minutes to thanks
Oh,
and
to say something?
thanks
Okay.
my colleague Bu Anis and also Pak Didin. Thank you for being with us. So we only can give you what we call it, certificate as a token of appreciations. Or we cannot offer some other things. So thank you very much for spending time for. I'm sorry to take your time from the baby, Bu Anis. Yeah, so Bu Anis was my former colleague at Ohio University, and Pak Didin also my colleague in what we call Moral 5,000 Doktor. He's my boss actually, Pak Didin. Thank you, boss.
My boss too. My boss too.
No, in 5,000 Doktor, Pak Didin is my boss. So thank
My
you, my
boss.
boss, for being with me in this session. Okay, maybe we would like to have a
Yeah.
photo session. I don't know how we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Diva, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oke, Pak, Ibu senyum semuanya ya.
Oke, senyum semuanya ya.
1, 2. Oke, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all of the participants who already provide us with a really good question. And thank you very much for all of the panelists who provide us with a lot of knowledge, sharing with us your experience. It's really, really inspiring. And thank you again for PBI department who conduct this webinar, and Pak Gufran and Ikhwan Nadifa for conducting this successful event. And looking forward to working with you all again in the future. As you mentioned, Pak Didin, a collaborative research later on. See you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much. And please send me the photo of the last one.
Bye, Anis.
Bye.
Assalamualaikum, Pak Didin, Bu Ati.
Sama-sama Bu Anis.
Bu Anis.
Ya, Assalamualaikum.
Salam.